All right, let's dive into a really fascinating geopolitical puzzle: India. Here's a nation that is somehow managing to be a close defense partner with two major rivals, the United States and Russia. And how they're pulling this off? Well, it's a true masterclass in modern diplomacy.
So you have to ask, how does that actually work? I mean, how can one country build these deep, powerful military relationships with two superpowers who, let's be honest, are so often at odds with each other? It sounds like it should be impossible, but India is doing it right now, as we speak.
Well, the answer comes down to one key idea: strategic autonomy. The best way to think about it is like a diplomatic high-wire act. It's all about making choices based on your own national interests, period. Not based on what other countries want or what camp you're supposed to be in. It is a very delicate, very high-stakes balancing act.
Now, to really get how we got to this point, we need to look back a bit. Because the situation today is built on two totally different histories. One with Russia and a very, very different one with the United States.
See, India's relationship with Russia goes way back. It was really cemented by a friendship treaty way back in 1971. On the other hand, its history with the U.S. was pretty frosty for decades, and it hit a real low point in 1998 with sanctions. The real game changer was the 2005 civil nuclear deal. That deal completely reset the relationship and kicked off a new era of cooperation. But that long history with Russia? It still matters, a lot. Even today, something like 60 to 70% of India's military gear is Russian-made.
So what does this balancing act actually look like in practice? Well, the clearest place you can see it is when you pop the hood on their military. India's arsenal is literally built with tools from two competing worlds.
From Russia, India gets its core foundational systems. We're talking about the S-400 air defense shield, its workhorse Su-30 fighter jets, and its main battle tanks. But then from the US, it buys these incredibly advanced specialized platforms like the P-8I sub-hunting planes and the Apache attack helicopters. You see, it's not about picking a side. It's about picking the best possible tool for the job, no matter where it comes from.
And here's the really crucial point. It's not just what they buy, it's how they partner. With Russia, there's this long history of developing things together, like the BrahMos missile, and transferring technology, which, helps India build up its own defense industry. The U.S. partnership is different. That's more about getting access to the absolute top-of-the-line, finished systems, and signing these foundational agreements that let their two militaries work together seamlessly.
This whole strategy goes way beyond just buying cool stuff, though. It's about how you train together. I'm talking about joint military exercises. This is where the balancing act really comes to life, where you build trust and make sure all that different gear can actually work together when it counts.
And here's a fact that might actually surprise you. Despite those deep historic ties to Russia, India now does more military exercises with the United States than with any other country on the planet. That just shows you how incredibly deep the US-India operational partnership has become over the last 20 years.
Let's just look at the specifics for a second. With Russia, the main event is an exercise called Indra, which involves all three services: Army, Navy, and Air Force. But with the US, you've got multiple massive exercises. The most famous is probably Malabar, which is this huge naval drill that also includes their Quad partners, Japan and Australia. That shows a much, much deeper level of strategic coordination.
So why the big pivot? Why this intense focus on training with the US and its allies? Well, one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest, is a shared strategic concern about China's growing power in the Indo-Pacific. That common interest has really become the glue holding the US-India partnership together and pushing it forward.
But, when you're walking a high wire, you can't lean too far in one direction without risking a catastrophic fall. And just a few years ago, India's balancing act was put to its most difficult test yet. The tightrope really started to shake.
It all started with this number: $5.4 billion. A huge, huge defense deal.
That was the price for Russia's S-400 Triumph system. It's one of the most advanced air defense systems in the world. For India, it was a critical purchase for its national security. But for its partners over in Washington, it was a huge problem.
See, this deal put India at direct risk of US sanctions under a law called COTSA, which is designed to punish countries that buy military gear from Russia. So this was it. This was the moment of truth. Was India going to cave to U.S. pressure, or was it going to stick to its guns and its path of strategic autonomy?
India's response was firm, and it was crystal clear. They basically said, we reserve the sovereign right to choose our own defense partners. And they bought the S-400. It was a massive gamble that pushed the balancing act to its absolute limit. But for now anyway, it's one that seems to have paid off.
So what's the point of all this? What is the actual end goal of this incredibly complicated, incredibly risky foreign policy?
This really gets to the most important takeaway of all. The point of walking a tightrope isn't to just balance up there forever. The point is to get to the other side. This entire strategy, all of this balancing, it's just a bridge to get somewhere else.
So what is that other side? Well, it has a name. Atmanirbhar Bharat. It's India's national mission for self-reliance. The ultimate goal here is to build up a domestic defense industry that's so strong that one day it won't be so reliant on Russia or the US or anybody else. The partnerships of today are just the tools to build the independence of tomorrow.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question. In a world that seems to be getting more and more polarized, is India's complex balancing act a smart blueprint for the future of foreign policy, or is it just a temporary strategy, a high-wire walk that, sooner or later, has to end?